Because it doesn't exist. Tom Brady, my friends, is the system. Car shopping's confusing. A lot of terms. Dealer price, list price, invoice. Here's what's not. TrueCar.com. New or used. Creates clarity when buying a car. Wild game yesterday. Several wild games. I watched a lot of the Seattle-Carolina game. Cam versus Russell Wilson. And with that, let's go via the Coward Global Satellite Network. Peter King, NBCSports.com. This game was fun to watch. Pete Carroll's one of the Coach of the Year candidates because we all kind of counted him out. I'm sure you watched most of that game. What did you make of Russell Wilson late?
I thought down the stretch he was incredibly good. He reminded me down the stretch of this game. The last game I saw Russell Wilson make a couple of throws like this. Was late in the NFC Championship game in 2014 when he beat Aaron Rodgers after starting that game horribly. In this game, Colin, to understand really how great an ending that Russell Wilson played in this game, just consider this. It's 4th and 3. Your team is 5-5. You're down 7 points. There's 3.5 minutes to go. And it's 4th and 3. Okay, instead of trying to get the first down and then maybe living to fight another day, he saw a receiver who had a step on a Carolina cornerback, and he said, listen, if I've told my teammates, hey, we got to go for it, we got to be bold, and you got to play with everything you have. Yeah. I know that's all cliche stuff, but that's what he says in the huddle. That's what he says. Hey, we're trying to win this game. We're going to make big plays. So he throws a ball 47 yards in the air, drops out of the sky right into his receiver's hands in the end zone. And that, to me, was just like his throw to Jermaine Kearse to win the NFC Championship game in overtime 4 years ago. I thought it was a heroic throw.
Yeah. No, that game was, and Pete Carroll, we were all banging on him. At least I was. He is up there with Matt Nagy, to me, as one of the coaches of the year. Let's shift to Baker Mayfield. Generally, rookie quarterbacks are better served with a veteran offensive coach, Hue Jackson, a Todd Haley. But they leave, and Baker's clearly better without them. Is it an indictment on Hue Jackson? Who deserves credit beyond Baker here?
Well, I think number one, I think Freddie Kitchens, who's the offensive coordinator there now, and he's sort of the guru to Baker, and he's been there the whole time, so he's had a connection with Baker. I think if you ask Freddie Kitchens, he will always said, I like throwing the ball down the field. And that's what you're seeing now. That's what he learned under Bruce Arians for 5 years in Arizona. And I think that's one of the things that the Cleveland Browns are seeing now. Baker Mayfield doesn't have a passable downfield arm. He has a good downfield arm. He doesn't have a cannon. He's not throwing it 75 yards or anything, but he's got a good downfield arm, and he's accurate. When he came out in the draft last April, Colin, I'll never forget, Pro Football Focus, the analytics company, wrote that of all the quarterbacks in the draft, we trust Baker Mayfield throwing the ball downfield better than all these guys, including Josh Allen. And so I think that is coming home to roost, and I think Freddie Kitchens is getting really good stuff out of him.
I watched the Pittsburgh Steelers yesterday, and I gave Ben credit. I said, yes, it was a terrible pass in the end, but they allowed him to throw 56 times. I mean, that's parents leaving for the weekend and, leaving the kids by themselves. That's a lot of respect. 56 times that's double what a lot of quarterbacks are throwing. I still think Pittsburgh's my Super Bowl favorite. I still love this team along with New Orleans. What did you make of the loss, though, and some of their mistakes in the red zone?
I would be a little bit concerned. I still cannot figure out what Ben Roethlisberger saw when he threw the ball to be, at like the 2-yard line to be intercepted by a defensive tackle. I'm a little mystified by that one. And it was a desperate time. You know, he needed to try to find somebody. I got that. But that decision just wasn't very good. Now, having said that, Ben Roethlisberger is one of these quarterbacks that 80% of the time, he's going to make plays where you say, man, I love having that guy as my quarterback, including the 97-yard incredible throw that will go down as one of the top 5 throws he's made in his life. I mean, number one, obviously, will be the Super Bowl throw to Santonio Holmes. But this will be in the top 5. It was an unbelievable play. But, you know, Ben giveth and Ben taketh away, because at the end of that game, you can't make that throw. I still regard him as a great quarterback. I love watching him play. If I were a Steeler fan, I'd be happy with him as my quarterback. But that was an awful, awful throw he made at the end.
So Phillip Rivers at one point yesterday, 25 for 25. And there's still this lingering thing with me. I don't trust the Chargers. I just feel that way. I just don't trust them in a big spot. Do you?
Well, Colin, that's because they've lost 8 in a row to the Chiefs. I mean, you know, at some point this year, okay, they're going to have to beat teams that they have struggled playing. And I'm talking about Kansas City, and I'm talking about New England. Okay, so, I mean, you have to tell me right now, not to mention the fact that, you know, if the season, you know, if the playoff seeds were the way they were today, it'd be the Chargers at the Steelers this Sunday night, and then on Wild Card weekend, it would be the Chargers at the Steelers 5 weeks later. So, I mean, they're going to have a tough road unless somehow, some way, that let's say Kansas City loses at Seattle, and then let's say Kansas City loses at home on the Thursday night to the Chargers, then maybe they could sneak in and win that division. But I don't give them a great chance to win that division.
Every year, I make predictions before the season, and there's always a team I completely whiff on. Nobody in the country that does what I do for a living whiffed as badly on the Chicago Bears as I did. I didn't see it coming. I didn't like Trubisky out of college. I didn't know who Matt Nagy was. I whiffed. Is it real? Did you see it coming? Do you think it's real? They're going to get into the playoffs as a division leader, a division winner.
I think so too, Colin. And here's what you have to ask yourself. Okay, I think at some point in this postseason, the 26th highest paid quarterback, Mitchell Trubisky, in a division with the first, third, and fifth highest paid quarterbacks.
Wow.
Rodgers, Kirk Cousins, and Matthew Stafford, the 26th highest paid quarterback is going to have to make some plays.
Yeah.
I mean, and so you have to, their defense is going to be a load for anybody they play. I'll tell you, the game of the year, the rest of this year, every game, I don't care how many games we talk about, the game of the year, down the stretch of this season, Rams, Bears, Sunday night in 2 weeks.
Yep.
That's going to be fabulous because it's now what everybody is saying, oh my God, there's too much offense, versus about the only team that can play great defense anymore at all. And to me, this is going to be Vic Fangio's opportunity, at least in my opinion, to show every owner and every GM in the hiring process in the postseason, you know what? Don't just look for the miracle genius next guy, Jeff Brom, David Shaw on offense. Don't look for that guy. Why don't you look for somebody who can stop those guys?
Yeah.
And so that, to me, is going to be just a great football game in 2 weeks.
Good 10 minutes with Peter King, NBC Sports. Love having you on Mondays. Peter, thank you so much.
You're welcome, Colin. Thank you.
Yeah, I whiffed on the Bears. I didn't see it coming. I just did not see it coming. Now, I will say this. There's a real possibility. And everybody loves the Rams here in L.A., and I've been saying, pump the brakes. They're not going to New Orleans and win. You know, Rams still have a couple tough games. They lose those games. Could they end up going to a Chicago Rams don't look as good when they played in Minnesota last year. They're not the same team on the road. They're not going to look good in Chicago. They're not going to look as good in New Orleans. Keep your eye on the Bears. I don't know what I'm talking about with them, but keep your eye on the Bears. Jamie with the news.
No.